Hi guys, welcome back to Making It with Dee. I'm Dee, and in today's video we're taking a little bit of a departure from our usual programming, i.e. the baking, and I'm taking this opportunity to share with you some of the other things that I make. Let's take it back a few steps. I thought I was a knitter, and I'm going to show you why I thought I was a knitter. And then I guess at the end of it, you can judge. What do you think? What are your thoughts? I'm curious to know. I started knitting, a long time ago when I was a teenager, but then I completely gave it up. And I didn't usually knit from patterns because I didn't understand them, and so I just didn't knit anymore at all. Until I was in my late 20s, I decided to go back to knitting. And it was a disaster. I had no idea about gauge swatching. To this day I still don't really do gauge swatching, but at least I have a better idea now about how to follow a pattern, thanks to YouTube. Right? So I have started creating some pieces, and they were either way too big or way too small, and I used the cheapest wool possible because that was all I could afford, and I also didn't want to invest in expensive things, expensive yarn, because I didn't think I was any good at it. So why waste all that money and to create something that is mediocre or even less than that, until maybe a couple of years ago. So I started knitting from patterns, and when I got stuck on a pattern, I would go to YouTube and ask YouTube to show me what this stitch looks like. If it says to me, the bobble stitch, for example, I had no idea. I could read the instructions, obviously, because I can read, I'm literate. Read the instructions from the pattern, but when I couldn't see what it looked like, that didn't make sense to me. So thankfully YouTube has tutorials on so many different stitches. There's so many different helpful tips on knitting that have got me back into knitting, got me back excited about knitting again. I'm going to show you a few of the pieces that I've made, and I could link the patterns if you're interested in the description below. Some of the patterns aren't available on the internet, so I'll show you where I get most of my patterns from. I will link the website that I use to go searching for patterns, free patterns. I don't think I've spent money on buying patterns on the internet yet, but I might get there. What I did do was I bought books, pattern books, and so I'll show you my little stash of pattern books. So our local crafters, whatever shop, I don't even know, it does fabric, it does, all the home decor stuff, called Spotlight, and it's available, I think, only Australia and New Zealand, and New Zealand is where I'm at. So I stocked up on these books, and they're quite cool actually, because they've got heaps of fantastic patterns in here with instructions, and the types of wool. It gives you everything that you need to know about a pattern. So some of my patterns are from these books. As you can see, I've built up quite a bit of a stash of these maker books. They've got heaps of yarn projects, so it's not just knitting, they do crochet as well, and it's just been really cool. So I will show you firstly a pattern, a jumper that I knitted. And the beauty of this jumper is that it's all in garter stitch. And so it was very easy to knit, came together quite quickly. I believe the pattern I found online, and I'll link the pattern in the description box below. So I've got little stripes on it too. As you can see, I did the front like this. This was from leftover yarn that I'd had from leftover projects, and this is a really thick, I think it's just acrylic wool. I'm no expert on wool, so this is one of my problems. one of the things why I am doubting myself as a knitter, because I am not very skilled in choosing wool. As much as I try to learn the whole worsted weight, finger weight, DK weight, sport weight, those terms are lost on me. I've tried to figure it out, because when I go to buy yarn, it doesn't say on the label that this is worsted weight, or this is sport weight, or this is whatever. So I'm a bit lost at that point. So I've created this beautiful piece of work. I love it. I love the colors. I love that it's garter stitch. It came together really quickly. So this collar kind of forms itself, and so because this jumper had no buttons, it didn't have, like, you know, a buttonhole panel to knit, and I'm still very new at learning to knit from patterns. So I created these little loops that I thought would look quite cute, because I just bought these beads. So I thought, oh, you know, create these loops, put the buttons on it, which are actually not buttons but beads. I think I did a pretty good job of that, and I will show you a clip on me wearing this, and you can see what it looks like. It's quite big, but here's the back. What I created the stripes. It doesn't exist in the pattern, so I changed it up and put these stripes in there just so that I could use up my leftover stash of yarn. And I'll show you where it came left over from. I'll show you my projects I created with the actual, this cream or beige colored yarn. So that was one of the things I made. The next one I want to show you is also quite simple, and it is stockinette stitch all the way. And it's this. So this is a beautiful color. It's made with, I believe, 100% Australian wool, and I love the color. So this pattern also comes from, the pattern comes from one of my books, and I'll show you the pattern in a second. And I have obviously done my own thing again, which I usually do. So there's a little bit of a embroidery going on the side here, as you can see. So that's what I did with from a different YouTube video. I thought I'd like to put some embroidery on this jumper, because I didn't put buttons in here. Now I'll show you on the book that I made it from, one of my maker books, and so the pattern says that it should look like this. And I'll do a close-up shot of this in the video. And so this does have a button band, but I didn't put buttonholes in it. And I just liked the little details on this because of the, you know, the edging. It's just stitched in. It's just like a straight stitch that you embroider kind of in, all the way around the jumper, all the way around the collar, around the hem at the bottom, and the cuffs of the sleeves. They all have this beautiful hand stitched, embroidered, you know, edging in a different color, which I thought was quite cool. And so because I didn't use the original wool for the pattern calls for, I decided to add a little bit of extra. So I added these embroidered flowers, which I really like. It just adds another little bit of extra dimension to this jumper. So that was made with 100% pure wool, Australian wool, and it's in stockinette stitch, which is really easy for me to knit. And I used to be afraid of this drop shoulder sleeve because I struggled to put it together, to sew it together. I think I have come a long way in terms of learning how to seam things together, but I've grown attached more now lately to knitting things, you know, top down. so that I didn't have to seam anything in because I always get nervous. I knit these pieces so beautifully, and then when I try to put it together in the end, it just ends up a mess, and it's such a disappointment. So I decided I'll try to choose patterns that don't require me to seam the sleeves in. Okay, that was just my cop-out strategy. And so it gets knitted in size 7mm needles, which, yeah, fast. This was a really fast project. So there was that one. And then I thought, I bought some wool at a sale at my local Spotlight. I don't usually hang my my pieces. This was just for the video that I put it up here. Fold them up. This beautiful, it's a Rowan pattern, and I got this gorgeous wool, this colorful wool that reminded me of a different type of expensive wool that I saw online. And so I thought, oh, I can create that piece with this wool. And this was knitted all in one, so no seams apart from at the top here. So you knitted two pieces, front and back, and then you put it together. And I just absolutely love this. So it's like a lace pattern, but the kind of, I think the pattern, the lace kind of gets lost a little bit in the busyness of, you know, the yarn. So it's okay though, because I like to wear it over things, and also just on its own. It's just gorgeous. I love this. I'm happy that I made it. I love the little ribbing details on the top by the cuffs of the sleeves. It's a little bit extra and I like it, as well as the ribbing at the bottom. And so I think it's a twisted rib is what you call it. Otherwise I'm lying and I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know what this ribbing is called, but it's ribbing. So there's that one, which was kind of not all in one, but yeah, you know what I mean. And then I graduated to cables. Cables! Oh my gosh, I thought I would never master cables. I was terrified of them because they looked so complicated. Until, of course, YouTube, right? So I looked up on YouTube and I decided that I would like to create this jumper, which is on the cover of one of my books. And so I used the wool yarn that I had bought a lot of, and I created this really gorgeous textured, and it's so beautiful. It's in a lighter color, and the texture just comes through so well. So there's cables across here as well, and then there's these bubble stitches, which I love, and it's got a little turtleneck thing going here, but it's not a very high one, and I often just roll it over when I wear it. I usually roll it over, and so the cables, and then there's garter stitch in between the cables, and some stockinette stitch at the bottom here as well. So this, I really felt accomplished when I finished this one, because I mean, look at it. For me as a beginner knitter, I thought this was quite an accomplishment, quite an achievement, because it looks gorgeous, and it's not one of those things that you'd think a beginner can do or that I thought a beginner could accomplish, and it made me feel like less of a beginner when I accomplished this. And so I really like this jumper a lot. It gets a lot of wear. I love it. And the last thing I'm going to show you for this video is a shawl that I created. Now I say I created it because there isn't really a pattern for it, but it looked like something that I saw on Pinterest that I really loved, and you might have heard of it, the Frida shawl, and I really loved the embroidery on it. And so I searched high and low for a pattern, a free pattern, that would show me how to create this shawl. Obviously this pattern for the Frida shawl is something that you need to purchase, and I wasn't convinced that I needed to spend the money on it. So I went on to, I think it was Ravelry. Somebody had said in Ravelry that they created a shawl, and it was just a plain shawl. It's a triangular piece of knitting that you create like that, and they created little side cords with pom-poms at the end. And I thought, okay, well, I can do that. And they just gave one line of how they did it. It was really simple. It's just you increase every row. And so I did mine in stockinette stitch, and I believe the Frida shawl was knitted in garter stitch. Oh, I lie. I could have had a garter stitch edging, and then the in between was stockinette stitch. So I just did the whole thing. I left off the edging, and I created just a garter stitch. I mean a stockinette stitch shawl, just a triangular shaped shawl. And then I created some, I can't remember what I used. What did I do? I might have used my French knitting tool and created this cord with it. I think that's what I did. With really, really cheap yarn that I bought at like the warehouse, which is almost like, I don't know what the American version of it is, or the international version of it is. Just, you know, where we can get something cheap. It's like Kmart, but I guess something like that. And so this yarn cost me $1 for 50 grams of it. And I was surprised that it was so chunky, because it didn't look chunky to me. But so this is what I did. I created my triangular shawl, and then I did my cords on the side, and I made these little pom-poms as well. So these pom-poms, I needed to consult YouTube how to create these pom-poms. And I think they look like pom-poms. Excuse my dog's heavy breathing. She's just recovering from surgery, and so we'll just try and ignore her. So I did this. I knitted this in stockinette stitch, and then I added embroidery at the end, at the bottom. So there's my little embroidery, my flowers and my little bees. I got this also, I searched up a template for, you know, flowers, and so I just did it with yarn. I did the embroidery with yarn on it, and I have to say I'm quite impressed with how it looks. I love how it turned out. Again, cheap yarn, because I don't trust myself enough to waste money on something on expensive yarn, but I'm not sure that the project's going to end up looking, you know, presentable. So should I trust myself? I would love it if you can tell me what you think, what your thoughts are, and whether I should make more videos about knitting, because I've got a few works in progress at the moment that I'm working on. I'm also working on a crochet design. Listen to me. I'm working on a crochet design. And I will maybe talk a little bit about that in a follow-up video. But for now, I think that'll do. I will wrap this up, and I'd love to hear your comments at the end of this video to let me know what you think of my knitting. Am I a knitter, or am I just mucking up? Because I feel a little bit intimidated by I'm inspired by the videos that the knitters put on YouTube, the knitting podcasts, and all these wonderful people who do these patterns and the test knits, and they use the most amazing yarn that I can only dream about using. But it's like they hold two strands together of silk, and I mean, one strand already costs more than I can afford, and then to hold two of them, so now you have to buy double the amount of yarn. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do live in New Zealand, where there are more sheep than people, and we've got possums running around as pests, and we've got rabbits as pests, but the yarn that people create from that costs an arm and a leg, and I am not sure whether my knitting skills are up to par for buying this expensive yarn. Just saying. Anyway, if you stuck it out so far, I appreciate you. I thank you for watching my video, and I invite you to come back. Actually, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and to encourage me, keep encouraging me to continue my knitting or my baking or whatever it is you'd like to see me do. I might do a crochet video as well. I would appreciate it if you spoke to me a little bit in my comment section, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.